Hey guys, it's Vince. Today in this video we're going to be discussing a real-world situation where a CNC plasma robot is really suffering from EMI penetration so great that the robot actually goes stagnant and does not move. I want you guys to see this in real-world time. I want you to see it, to use it for your own benefit and learn from it, and to see symptoms of what EMI can do if it's large enough in the amount that it would actually penetrate your step and direction signals. Now, why I'm on this form, this Linux CNC form, I had a potential client direct me to some things that he read, and he wanted to know if this was me actually being described in the form. And this person here, this topic author, decided to go into detail about what I was saying. He says here, I'm just going to cover basically where he brings me up. I've read through Hypertherm article on grounding. I've read bits here and there on 100 different forum posts around the web. I thought I had a pretty good grasp at how I would approach my build. But then I found a YouTube channel by Corvette Guy 50. I can't tell if this guy really knows what he's talking about or if he's trying to scare the crap out of everyone into just buying his really expensive custom products. For example, double shielded cable is mandatory. All connections must be soldered. No crimps is mandatory. Leads from BOB drivers, shielded, mandatory. Leads from BOB to chassis mount cable connector, shielded, mandatory. Absolutely no doubling up on connectors on a screw post. Obviously, when you have a shielded cable, you have to drain one end. So right there is at least 15 individual shields to be grounded, at least 10 more posts on the grounding terminal block. My little enclosure is going to be filled up quickly with terminal blocks. What I'm getting at is, in your experience, at what lengths did you have to go to protect your control box from EMI? Now, just so everyone is on the same page, this individual is speaking about a plasma cutting robot. Okay? Now, what I find more comical is not so much that he's using a form for reference. A lot of people do that, and that's where they get burned. But what I find really comical is he could just do his due diligence and see that from articles I've already posted, direct from Lincoln Electric, who again, their engineers are some of the best in the industry. Average table cost from them is about $50K. They go into an explicit, detailed format on proper grounding. So I don't know what he means by I'm trying to scare the crap out of everyone. Maybe I'm trying to more or less enlighten everybody. Because what's interesting is, just as I've predicted, just as I've explained to all of you, once we come onto a forum, you can see we start getting all of the people's reactions. Error 404, too many words mandatory. Then it comes down here, if you have a CNC compatible plasma source, and this guy goes into a whole different realm here. Then we come down here and it starts going into, well, on my system, which has never, of course, never capitalized, had any EMI problems, it then goes on. And then he comes over here and then he starts chiming in. He's seeing that he can find validation from the peanut gallery on what he should or shouldn't do. And what the reality is, he doesn't want to spend the time to do what I'm actually covering, because if he does that, it's going to be labor intensive, it's going to be very costly, even if he does the work. And is he competent enough to do the work? And this is the things that we have to analyze, because when we talk about a plasma system, we are talking about a whole different animal. I've said this many, many times. And as we come down here, he actually gets another response. I don't know, it says Agent WD-40, you only need shielded wiring for external wiring. My system uses crimp terminals and ferrules wherever possible. You should have no EMI problems from your 45XP John. Now my question is, what proof does he have? What validation does he get from these people other than these people chiming in? It's like I said, there's no validatable proof of anything. Have they built the system? Do they understand what they're even talking about? They have experience primarily with what they've built. And that's it. We have no idea of duration of stability on their own systems. Yet, Lincoln Electric wrote a PDF. We can look up also from Hypotherm, another excellent manufacturer in the U.S. of plasma cutters, and we can look up their direct information. I've posted that as well. I have no reason to lie about it. I mean, you guys can check out the information. The only thing I see here is that we're trying to cut corners because, number one, we don't have money, or number two, we're not smart enough to say, why would somebody go into this line of detail about this topic unless they understood it? Down to the effect of them developing their own cable, having their own company name put on the cable. That seems excessive. But better than that, let's look at what happens to most plasma cutters when we have EMI penetration. Now, this can happen either in the worst possible sense that you're about to see here, or it can happen where it's less atrocious, so to speak, and it would happen in a sporadic format. And that's the worst way to happen, because when we develop those type of ghosting effects where, once again, the signals are there and everything's cutting great for maybe 2-3 hours, and then all of a sudden the system goes crazy, you don't know what happens, and you're developing blems. Then the next time you go to cut, it happens in 10 minutes. Yet the next time you go to cut, it happens in 6 hours. Those are the worst symptoms, and I want to show it. So why I'm highlighting this is not to waste anyone's time. I want you guys to see firsthand how easy it is to be caught in the realm of looking on forums, hoping to find good actual advice, and what you're actually finding is opinions. And opinions cost you money. They're going to cost you money most of the time right away, or they're going to cost you money in the end, because you'll test some of those opinions and see what effect you have. And when I see that people are saying, hey, you don't need shielded cable except for external wiring on a plasma cutter, guys, talk to the community and find out if I'm wrong. Talk to Lincoln Electric, email them, message them, hell with me, go to them direct, find out if what I'm saying is BS, okay? I mean, I've done well over 500 systems which are verifiable. I've worked with Boeing, I've worked with Applied Materials, Works Holsters now I'm working with, but I don't know what I'm talking about, yet we have an individual here who's posting anonymously, and he's asking all of these people, yet we know none of their backgrounds. We don't know if they've built one system, built no systems, talking about, again, we see pictures of individual units. We have no idea of who you're learning from. You're just taking opinions. So please be careful, do your due diligence, and check this next video out. I'm going to continue it from there. Okay, guys, in this portion of the video, I'm going to show you in real time with a real robot what EMI penetration looks like on step and direction signals, as well as just EMI penetration to such a high level that the robot basically becomes totally disoriented and goes virtually nowhere. We've been working with 2 commercial clients now for some time on a system design that they've been working on. What you're about to see is initial testing prior to them contacting me on proper grounding for their system, and this is what they experienced prior to turning the torch on, and then you'll see when the torch is cycled on what many of you experience. Now again, there are different levels of EMI penetration. In certain instances, they can be massive like you see here, and in other instances you'll get what's known, and I've discussed this in the earlier part of the video, called ghosting, where again you may have certain levels of stability, but over duration you might get just, periods of just inconsistent instability, where an axis will do something that it wasn't programmed to. It'll stop. It'll bump into things. You'll get all kinds of random effects. This can also be attributed to different switches and switch configurations in terms of EMI penetrating them as well. But overall, I get asked about this a lot. After looking at the form and what I've actually seen in that, this is a true defining factor of what happens when the proper double shielded cables are not being used. And in this particular instance, these gentlemen were not using shielded cables at all, which many people who are building these robots do. They look at saving money, and in the end, it usually bites them, because then they'll find my videos and say, oh my, now I think I understand it. So let's check it out. We'll go over it together. Okay, so we saw the robot. It went in and did its thing. It traced everything. It moved properly. Everything appeared to be normal. And this is where most guys feel, hey, I've built the robot correctly. Everything is set. My controller's set. I have nothing to worry about. Okay? And now we're about to see what happens when the torch is on and the EMI is present, because that torch, once it fires, I've said this in numerous videos, it is literally like a nuclear explosion of EMI that goes off because we're drawing so many amps, and this table is all metal, it's fully conductive, and it acts as an antenna, transpiring that electrical energy all into your electronics. And this is what you'll see and what you'll experience, and I hope many of you listen closely if you're not using double shielded cables. And again, use the best cables you can afford. If you're serious about building a robot for production, I cannot emphasize that more than anything. This is the circulatory system of your robot. If it's not done correctly, you will have stability issues. Here's what actually happened when they cycled on the torch. There you go. There you go. So now we've seen the entire process. Torch off, everything seems right. Torch moves around properly. As soon as the torch is fired, all of a sudden all control is basically lost and the robot does nothing and you have a paperweight. So once again, don't believe me. You've watched a video. It's a short video. I'm trying to keep these as short as possible. I'm linking over to my overview on Lincoln Electric's PDF manual on EMI and grounding, and you guys be the judge. Is it worth the time to do solder connections on all of your connections? Use the proper star ground, use the proper double shielded cables, especially for my guys with plasma systems. You will be the judge, because until you've experienced a headache like a robot being hit and miss or no stability being there after spending all that time and all that money, it pays for itself the second you turn on the system and you know you have peace of mind. Many of those guys from that forum, you will never know the defining line of stability that they've actually achieved. Everybody claims that they're selling a great system and it's wonderful, but when we look at history, ask yourself how many guys are showing their system cut day after day without any problems. When I hear things like no shielded cables are being used, it's, once again, it always leads down to money. And it leads down to incompetence, because once you understand how these robots work and what's actually being done with them in terms of signal reception, there's no doubt in my mind, if we're using them with anything dealing with music and in the music industry or ham radio, dealing with signal reception, it's no different than what we're dealing with. The difference is it's critical because we're producing components. So again, you guys be the judge. I'll give you all those links in my video description. I hope you've watched the video to the end. Once again, if you guys require consultations, quotes, or questions, message me direct at storm2313@gmail.com. You'll see the links in the beginning of the video and at the end. I thank you all for your support. Take care.